Well, good morning. Barry Trelevin speaking. Um, this week, our exercise is week 2 over here. And if we were actually following my mouse, the actual commencement of the week was the 13th of February, class of Greek figures. And what we're going to do is actually look at all the costs involved and rates that we can get using our marvelous resource called Cordels. Okay, Cordels, CoreLogic brought them out. But basically, for several years now, we have actually had this exercise, and the reason I do it is that we end up with a unique set of figures that are only applicable to semester 1 2023. Key for that is absolutely crucial, and the main thing, especially for my external students, and if I was to actually highlight, ordinarily internal students are around about 85 to 86% completion rate of the course. External students, in spite of almost 30 tutorial resources, down as low as 63%. And I suspect some of that is just the lack of somebody steering them, and it's being left to their own devices to actually follow what is going through. So to run this video, I have to be logged into TAFE, and the other thing that happens when I'm logging into TAFE is every time an email comes in or something like that, will end up with a little bell going off or whatever. So don't be too fussed about that. The idea of external students, and the assumption is for external students, you already have a high level of building experience. If you don't, you have it way against you, and you need to actually attend a night class. We only have one night class. We did have a day class, but we only had one enrollment, and that particular student that enrolled has actually cancelled out and is going to pick up the course next semester. So a couple of things, right? External is not an excuse for too far to travel. Okay, and last night, one of the students that I teach at night basically lives out of Elizabeth, so he's got one hell of a trek. But I can guarantee you, when you do come to a class, right, you'll know exactly what's going on. And my number one motto in class is to have fun. Okay, if I can't do that, I'll stop teaching, because the reality is learning is fun. And if that hasn't been your experience, that's because whoever was teaching you hasn't actually picked that up yet. But when you have fun, it is easy. See, it's easy to handle hard stuff when you're actually having fun. Having somebody there with a shotgun or a submachine gun and you make a mistake is absolute, that's not learning. All right, that's dictatorship, and I don't want to see that in any of my classes ever. Okay, so here's your diary, and so by all means keep under this. Now it's really important that number 1, this part through here, which is the assessment 1 instructions and information. I have one student who has actually completed the assessment out of the entire group, so it should be a lot more than that. Don't treat this as, oh, well, I'll get around to it one day. This needs to be done ASAP. Okay, so that's a little bit of housework. And so now what I'm going to do is basically get rid of this. What we can do just before I do that, understand that next week we start the full-on estimating, okay, which is actually the concrete slab. So you need to be ready for that. So each of these are a schedule that you need to keep to. And if you do that, scrolling all the way down, around about here, you'll be completed, piece of cake. Okay, but if you put it off and stuff like that, especially externals, then what will actually happen is you'll get behind, and that'll be an absolute disaster, and I don't want that to happen. The great thing about this year at the moment, our internal class at night is about 10 students, which is like a walk in the park. Usually I would have at least 24 and sometimes up to 30 people on tables with laptops and all that sort of stuff. Now it's more regulated. If you need to come, you can contact and come at night, because there is room, and that will actually work it out. I also understand the reality that some people have family, kids, and one partner working and all that type of stuff. I mean, yeah, it's an absolute hassle around that, but it's good study and good stuff for you to learn. Okay, I'm going to get rid of this. We don't need it for the rest of the session. And now what we're looking at is the student view of the course, rather than my view, which has all my background information in there. And what I want you to do is to click onto class agreed figures. So class agreed figures has a couple of really good things here. Number one is you need to actually click on this one here. Okay, it's a template for all students for semester 1 2023, and I'm just going to pop it up for a minute, and this is what you'll be working with in a minute. You'll be actually filling this out. So if you're an external student watching this video, I want you to fill this column. If you're a Wednesday night class, last night the students were actually filling this out. We didn't get it quite all finished, and so they have a bit of homework to do. And this column here, nothing will be happening, because there is no class on the Tuesday. There's only the two classes, Wednesday night 6 till 9 and external. So that's just how that worked out for this year. Now, what's this? This will be an average of every rate all the way through, and so I will be doing that behind the scenes. So when everybody's uploaded their stuff, I've got a large Excel spreadsheet, and their information will be actually dropped into the course. Now, it's important to understand what the word rate is, okay? And over this side here, we've got square meter rate, weekly hire, meter rate, per month, per square meter. Okay, do not want you to do any estimating on this sheet. All I want is rates. Okay, so RATES. Okay, really important, because those rates then dictate how our actual information is going to be worked. Now, through here, you'll be happy to know that plumbing is very difficult, and so I have actually put these figures and these rates into here, and for the moment that will suffice for what we need for the actual class agreed figures. Now, over here are some sections in which are quite difficult to find, I might add, in Cordell's, but basically electrician supply and fit hourly rate, painter supply and fit hourly rate, and plasterer supply and fit hourly rate. They're difficult to get. Colorbond roof, okay, rough slab. Now, we may not even use these, but it is well worthwhile you knowing. Okay, then we get down to here, and these are specifics, okay? Anything that is red is going to be going into the Excel spreadsheet. So we have 3 trees, and there's a price to get rid of trees. Site leveling, meter rate, and so on and so forth. Site clean, scrape. We're going to scrape off, you know, maybe 1.5 inches to get rid of all of the weeds and rubbish like that before we start the build, and then we start to put our soil and all that sort of stuff on there. Blue metal. Labour to spread the blue metal. What is that rate? Probably per cubic meter. Termite treatment. There's a couple of oddball things. excavate piers. This is actually using machinery, linear meter rate, and you could just follow down all the way through here. So what I'm going to be saying is that start at the top and basically set yourself at least 2 hours. Okay, and you just have to have this open and Cordell's open, and then we can actually start to fill that out. And I'll do an example just to make it a little bit more real. Now, before we do that, we actually have a couple of formalities which are really important. And so first of all, there is a document that needs to be filled out. So you click on here, okay, CoreLogic document upload, and underneath here is the actual upload when you have completed or filled this out. So what we actually do, I will actually just save that and bring this up. It'll come up eventually. Okay, this is a legal document between CoreLogic and TAFE and you, the student. So the first thing you need to fill out is your name, your address, your contact details, phone. All right, have a read about this and what it actually says, and the student requests and CoreLogic agrees to supply the product described for items below. So the document, the duration will be at the end of semester 1, 2023. There is no renewal category. And then through this period, there are some things here which you are allowed to look at and work on, obviously not copy. And then it goes through a few other things like this, which are merely formalities. Down the bottom, okay, you need to actually put your name in block letters, uppercase, and then your signature. Now, because the online students haven't got a chance of getting a signature, I do not mind if you basically, for your signature, perhaps use something like, and if I come up here, and one of the fonts that I use a lot whenever I want to do a signature, and I just have to find it because as usual it's way down here. It's not Bush script, it's another script, but it actually has, it looks really good in regards to a signature, and I'll find it eventually. I think it's here, this one here. Okay, Edwin script, and let's just say that I'm putting a signature in here. Oh, and that didn't do that. That'll be right. So let's go like that. After you put your name in, go through. Okay, click it on here. And the other thing is bring us up to about 16 or 18 or something like that. And Barry Treleaven. So let's type that in now. And hopefully that will actually do that. And that will actually be fine. What will happen is after you've actually put your name in here, basically you can go through, and I will actually in Learn, because this will be come up in the Learn box for me to mark and just sign off, and I will actually put my name as the witness, and at the end of my name I'll put lecturer. Okay, don't worry too much about this. Now if you're in a class, that would be easy because everyone could do that because there's multiple people, but we don't have that opportunity. So this is just a formality, and basically they won't allow us to use it unless we fill this out. So actually do that one there. Now I'll get rid of this because I don't need it, but basically you need to fill that out. Now I'm just going to shut this down because we don't need it anymore. You can just work on that from home. Now what I have to do, hopefully, I'll just minimize that. Okay. When you've actually filled it out, add a submission. Okay. and you can actually drag a file straight into there and save changes, and then it will upload. Okay, now this little square here, make sure you tick this. All right, other than that, I don't see it, and it's a bit of an innocuous sort of little thing. All right, and I'd like a little bit more bells and whistles around this so it stands out more, because lots of students actually put in work and don't click this, and what will actually happen, it'll upload, it will go into Learn, but it goes in draft fashion, and I don't see draft fashion. So the only way that I could do that, and I'm going, I know there's more people than this that have done the course, and sure enough, I click in a search for all the drafts, and I have a gaggle of people who have not actually touched this. So this is just a little bit of housekeeping in regards to how we do this. Now, the other thing that we need to think about also is, once you've done this, save changes, and then off we go. Let's go back to class and group figures, leave the site, okay, because I don't want any more to do with that. Now, when you're looking at your files and saving, I want you to save in the TAFE cloud. And the reason I want you to do that, and the TAFE cloud, put in a document under your documents, unit code, this name, and your takeoff, and anything else that you need relevant, like a copy of your sheet that you filled out, can go into that file. And because you have a TAFE cloud account, you can basically go straight into there, and every night, any work that you do, you save to the cloud. I've had all sorts of dramas over the years where people have lost, I think the worst one was 2 weeks from the end of the year. A student had all his work on a flash drive, and he dropped it out of his pocket onto the floor. His wife vacuumed the floor, didn't realize it, and his basic flash drive went in the bin, and also in went all, and I knew that he had done the work. He was within a meter of me, meter and a half, in a classroom, and I could see what he's done, and suddenly I've got nothing. And so we had to do a workaround to get him out of trouble, and then he had a massive amount of work in those last 2 weeks to ensure, and yet he was way in front. And that's the sort of thing can happen if you don't twig and make sure that you're very good with your file saving. File saving is not on a flash drive. File saving is if you've got a cloud device, which TAFE provide, you basically go straight into it, and effectively you save. So when that actually happens, and you just click on a document, save as, up it comes like that. Now, in my case, here it is here, OneDrive. This is my home computer stuff. And over here, this is just like one of the drives I have. So these are all the documents here that I work on each year. So semester one, this is all the stuff. So this is where this actually ties in. So saving that, create yourself a file, and this is under documents, and you actually put that in there, and whatever courses you have, make yourself a dump folder so all your stuff goes in there, and you have it, and you don't lose anything, because it's absolutely critical that you actually do that. And so there you have it there, and I could actually click save. I don't want to because I've got that much stuff already. It's actually huge. All right, so I'm going to shut that down. That's just a bit of housekeeping around that. Okay, so once we've done that, you would have received from me an email. Now, the email actually comes in as an address of Core Logic. Okay, so if I was to actually bring up my TAFE email and click on that, I know all the students that are actually in Core Logic, and pretty much anyone who enrolls, the first thing I do is actually cover that. So there's a little bit of a color format in my record doc, and don't be too fussed about this. I'll actually minimize that. This is just a few of the students I have, no big deal. And up here, okay, here's estimated costs. This is the sign-in sheet. These are the students last night that filled up one external and the others internal. This is when you've been enrolled into Cordell's and have access. Middle of the day class, here's every external student, and all of you have actually been sent out an email. And so we have one student who has actually filled out the documentation. Okay, so what I'm expecting this week is, as part of your homework, is to actually fill that document out, upload it to me, and then by the end of next week, I should be able to have all of that green. The other formalities that you don't see, okay, is over here. These are all the tasks that encompass estimated costs. So the two most important are takeoff and spreadsheet. Okay, and we start the takeoff next week. But we also have work in progress takeoff, which is the takeoff up to the end of carpentry. And I get everyone to upload to me at that point. Why do I do that? That means in the middle of the semester, I have half of it marked already. Generally, for this unit, I have between 50 and 60 students. This year, I've got like about a little over 20, which is a walk in the park. So, but I keep a tight ship so that all of you pass. And I think that's the main reason you're here, is to actually learn this subject, and also so that you pass. And so there's a plan reading exercise that we're going to be looking at today as well. And then we've got class agreed figures. So when you put in a class agreed figures, I click that off, and I'm expecting that from everybody. Okay, next week, when we actually do our first estimation, I will actually release this one, which is a series of questions and a home price comparison, which is all about reading plans. And so by the time we do this one and this learn quiz, we have covered the plan reading side of it. And last night, most students have done plan reading, but you've done that way ago, and you just forget stuff. And so that's a big key. All right, so let's minimize that. Okay, here, CoreLogic costing software. Now, the key thing about that is when you actually touch it, and I need to actually go class course. All right, and you click on here, and you will get this interface. Now, in my case, that's my email and my password. Okay, you will have your password, which needs to be your name at student.tfsa.edu.au. Okay, we will not be using Hotmail addresses or anything like that. It must be your TAFE email, and it's easy for me to tell me what your password will be, and that is estimate, capital E STIMATE. That's the password, and that way there, every time that we log into CoreLogic, Cordell, okay, this is it. So keep a link for yourself, and now submit. Now, before I click the submit button, one other don't. Do not go online and do a search for Cordell. You will not get Cordell Education Edition. You will get the full-blown Cordell Edition, which your password and login will not work. And you'll be scratching your head going, well, it looks like this, but it's not the same. Okay, it's really important. Okay, there is a link that you will be sent with your email, and it pays you to actually save that in your favorites, so that when you need to go to it, you can just click on it and off we go. All right, so there are a whole heap of things. There's a website you could visit. There's a costing, there are articles, there's actually even tutorials. But any you choose to do, make sure you do my work first, okay? Because if you get stuck in this rabbit hole, you could be here for months. All right, so straight away, there's a demo you can have a look at here, how to start estimate video training. At this stage, I don't want any of you to go into this until you've got time under your sleeve. The number of students I see with the amount of courses they got, I don't think you'll have time to do it. So we just click OK, and this is our interface. Now, they have lovely little things here about what you can do and can't do and everything else like that. And the main area, what we're going to be working on today is basically databases. So once you click on, now, as I'm the webmaster, this is a list of all the students that I have put on, up to about here somewhere, okay, because these are lecturers, and some of them use it for a purpose in a class or something like that. Now, the rest of the people through here are basically the students. And so you can see, you know, 3 hours ago, one of my students was online, okay? There's 113 minutes, 2 days. And so I can tell, you know, who's been on, you know, I've been flat out, I've been working on it. And I go, no activity. Okay, so nothing is hidden from me. I can't tell exactly what you do and learn, but I can sure as hell tell you whether you spent 10 minutes or 10 hours. And that's a big indication when something's happening. Unless you're a smarty pants and you just log on and go out for the day and come back and say, see, they think I'm working. But it also lists what you do. And so that's really important. So I've already had somebody in Read Plans try that. And I just went in and took a copy of their activity, and I said, yeah, you can log on. You just need to watch the video. So it's really important, this bit here. So now that's interesting. It's actually gone up to 150 users. It used to be 100. So I can actually just go, right, let's have a look at databases. Okay, left-hand side interface, we have up here information. And so if we click onto that, these are a few estimating tips. So all prices are GST free. All rates can be adjusted on the estimate page. And what I explained to the students last night is exactly what I'm going to explain to you now. You will get rates and you just have a look and go, I don't know if that's right. So by all means, as maybe a good check is actually because you can go onto, for example, Bunnings and many other timber suppliers and put in a particular piece of material, and let's just say it's 90 by 35. The 90 by 35 rate for timber that Cordell's comes up with is amazingly cheap, and where the price is closer to $5 a lineal meter. And so this is where you need to check that. So commercial subcontract labor, residential subcontract labor, and there's a few other things like that. Now we are going to use, and if your copy of Cordell's does not have this clicked, go through here and it already picks up which state you're in. And so you won't get an actual opportunity unless you go select database and go to Sydney, for example, which is really expensive. And you could go through here. If you're doing an insurance renovation, then you could probably look at these two here. Square meter rates in particular, I steer right away from here. And the reason for that is we got a great big plethora of builders that have gone belly up big time. And those guys were highly experienced, but a lot of them actually work on a square meter rate. And the problem with that is that a square meter rate that you get from somebody else may have everything in it, it may not. Your job is to ensure that it has everything in it. So this is absolutely crucial. So the elemental, I'm not sure about, but here we got SA Housing and SA Commercial. We're actually doing a housing project, and so we'll be using the SA Housing database. All right. Now, there are some Cordell standard house plans, nothing extraordinary, but you could actually have a look at those. If we were to actually go right through here, there's actually historical price guides through here. All right, and so 2021, 2022, and we started to actually go into 2023, the first quarter. Okay, and so remember, economically, we talk about 4 quarters in a year, and that's where some of this comes in, and you can see some of this. So it's worthwhile having a look around, but don't get bogged in here because I'll never get you out. Provisional allowances, which are use a provisional allowance for extra course checklist. Basically, if we were to look at labour rates, okay, this if we were looking about labour rates, subcontract labour, site leading hand allowance, and so let's just have a look at this one, and you could actually go through. And over here, if you're a supervisor, all right, basically the charge out rate for a supervisor is $73.51. Okay, if you're a carpenter and joiner, which was my trade, $52.13. Now, you know the blase thing, I was getting that back in 2006. We're 2023, so that is not really a rate. In actual fact, when I go to get my car service, they charge almost $100 an hour. So something is not quite right here. All right. Bricklayer, stonemason, electrician, these are the sort of charge out rates that can be found. And so we can actually have a look at that. Plumber, gas fitter, a drainer, which is basically someone who does digging out drains. Roofer, okay, $47.88. These are all the trades, and that's an expected rate all the way through there. So it's quite interesting. Boiler maker, welder, cleaner, refrigerator. And so if you were actually having to come up with a rate for site cleaning, for example, or a home clean, of a new build, this is where you would get that sort of stuff. Now, all of this is an experience thing. You can click that, or you just need to go to this one. And now, professional fees. Now, professional fees are things such as, for example, for our home, we actually need a drafting services. Okay, we need to actually have a look over here. Now, I can tell you that our home will come in between $400,000 and $500,000. So if that's the case, would we just go to here? It says 500. I think that's probably a reasonable item we could put in. So 2,512.50. Now, if we were looking, now this is simple, a real simple home. See that simple there? Our house has a little bit of complexity. So maybe we could actually have a look and say, well, this has actually got a few complex things in there, and it's that we could allow that. Now, that's your choice. Now, when you do that, you could basically add a little note or anything like that to say, okay, this is what we chose, and go from there. Now, it's important to actually do those rates. Now I'm going to bring up my Word document. Now, I don't know if I can do this, so I'm going to try. I'm just going to grab that. Okay. Copy. All right. Nothing too difficult. Design drafting. Okay. It's an external class. Click into here and paste. Okay. That's it. Nothing else needed to do. So now what you need to do is go on to the next one, which is energy rating, crossover permit. Now, the other thing I want to do here is the soil test is a slang term. The correct building term is geotechnical report. Okay, and so if I was to just go, and I have had over the years so many students tear their hair out because they're looking for soil test and there's nothing there. Okay, crossover permit, that one there is also need to actually check. Doesn't matter, you can go up and actually check a crossover permit, what it's worth, and basically put that in the rate. Now what I'm expecting is for you to just keep on going down here, and if it says I'm looking for a square meter rate for scaffold, that's what I'm looking for. If I'm looking for a meter rate, this is actually lineal meters. So what I should do, so that people don't get stuffed up, lineal meters. And so for example, you would actually have a look at that and go, oh yeah, well, you know, we're looking at probably that one. Oh, I don't know if that's it. Maybe it's this one. Yeah, okay. All right, lineal meter rate. And there's a whole heap that you can go through. Now, I don't want you to spend 5 or 6 hours on this. I just want you to have some fun with it, have a check through. So when you get that rate, you just say, rightio, I'm actually going to be looking for a geotechnical report. So let's have a look. We'll minimize this, and up here, okay, geotechnical report. There it is there. Can't be any easier. And what does it say? Geotechnical report, boring 3 holes to 1.5 meter, hand auger. That's a bit tough, isn't it? And basically $569.50. So they actually drill down about 1.5 meters, and they find a problem or two. And so you can do exactly the same thing. Copy that, okay, bring up your Word document, and geotechnical report, you can just put into here and then Control V, and basically that's another rate. That's all I'm looking for. Now what will actually happen is my Excel sheet is designed specifically in this format. So what I do is when you submit to me this and I upload it, I copy this all the way down and put it into the Excel sheet, and say 10 students or 15 students actually fill out this section, it'll be an average of those 15 students what rates they get. And I will not correct the rates. Sometimes I get outlandish rates and I'm thinking, I don't know where that came from, but that just adds to the average. If I had 10 of you and they all did that, well, it's going to be that rate. Okay, makes sense? All right, so building permit and associated fees. So let's have a look at that. So I'll minimize, and this will be the last one I do. And so we'll just go building permit. Okay, building permit. Didn't do anything. Haha. Okay, let's professional fees. So we've actually got a few things here, and this is where it can bring up a whole heap of stuff with searching. Or the other thing is building designer services. Now, what about a survey? All right, we have to actually have a single dwelling, marked boundaries and the corners, probably a reasonable rate for site survey. So we can do that while we're here. We can just grab that, copy, bring up our Word doc again, and we actually look for, it's here somewhere, might be a bit further down. There you go, site set out, surveyor, and it says including levels, so you don't have to do 2, just the 1, Control V. All right, easy as that. Now sometimes this is a bit of a problem, the Word doc, but just leave it do what it wants to do. Okay, you can see some of the other things. All right, and the other one there, we just go back, minimize that again. Okay, and we've got builder designer services. All right, we've actually got residential survey fees. Okay, all right, and that's where we got that. And then we've also got some of the actual other type of stuff, site preliminaries. And if you cannot find a rate, okay, for the cost of a fee, here we go, development application, building application fee. So all of these are actually relevant. So let's have a look at that one. Okay, and here we have fee based on building costs. Well, ours is going to be $500,000 at least. So we would actually use this figure here. Okay, so development application fee on building costs. And again, we just do our copy like so. Right, let's go right up to here, and we're actually looking for associated fees, and in you go like that. Okay, so there's a warranty insurance, so in that same column. So if we go down here, all right, you can actually see development application fee, warranty. Okay, and again, if you can't find it, all right, you might have to do a little bit of a search along those lines, but most students actually do this. I'm really old-fashioned, like I do the, you know, like the never-ending scroll thing. And over the years, I've watched the people who are really conversant with a computer and stuff like that, and they just, you know, like, bang, up it comes, and I go, oh, okay, all right, we can do that. Now that's your exercise. Make that you you do about 2 hours of that, and then once you've actually filled out your sheet, and we'll just bring up the Word document again. All right, these are the key ones. Anything that's red, okay, because these are the figures that I want ready to go into the spreadsheet. So anything that is red, don't waste time there and there. It's not red. Okay, over here, supply bricks per 1,000, and just choose an average rate. Sand, how much a 20 kilo bag? Cement, 20 kilo bag. Lime, brick ties, damp proof course, lineal meter rate. Vents, eave lining material, sisolation, and also the labour to put the sisolation in. Now, some of these things will actually have a labour content and a material content, and so we just separate that. And then we've got plasterboard, supply and fit. Okay, and you can have a search for that. Supply of architraves and skirting, so you can change that. Then we've got internal doors, fix out labour, painting, and then there's a couple of little funny little things here. Things like mirrors, carpet, entrance set, what's a ducted heating unit, supply and install, clothesline, letterbox, all that sort of area like that. Okay, so basically that's the whole lot. And quite realistically, if you spend a good solid 2 hours, you'd have no trouble whatsoever doing most of those. When I had 25 to 30 students in a class, some without computers, so I'd have all the people on the computers and someone alongside of them, because we had too many in the class. Basically, that would be where I'd get them to put both of their names up so that I knew who had done what. So things such as, like this is just an example, floor and wall tiling labour, and $45.49. That's not per 100 square metres of labour, that's actually per hour. Okay, and then house cleaning, rubbish removal, clean bricks, and basically that is the end of it. So that's our exercise for this week. So I'm now going to minimize this. You can actually see that this is a wonderful resource. It has amazing amount of stuff that you could actually go through. There's even building cost indicators that you can have a look at, and there is a levy. that's supposed to go on all training too, so that's quite interesting. Glass bricks, roof plumbing, okay, downpipe complete, color bond, downpipe. This is really a bit of a pain, really, but think of this. All right, so that comes up, and it talks about a downpipe, 90 mm diameter, and so all this is for the downpipes. It's amazing. And then I go, okay, where are the sheets? Quite difficult to find. Sometimes we can't get those, and we'll get a linear meter rate from, well, we used to use Revolution Roofing. They're still operating, but they've gone broke. And that's another one that's actually gone belly up. So an interesting, and I want you to treat it with a bit of fun. If you can't find anything, don't be stuck there for 3 days. I'm talking to the engineers, okay? The perfectionists. I don't want you to have a heart attack and don't do a thing, all right? I want you to actually have a go. That's the whole idea of this. Most perfectionists are absolutely fantastic at doing nothing because they can't do anything unless it's perfect. It means you won't do a thing. Perfectionism can be an absolute cancer on a person. And so it's nothing wrong with being fussy and doing a good job. I'm all for that. But the thing is, you've got to do the job. All right. And so don't be put off by the fact that, oh, I don't understand this. The object of this is you learn by doing. And I can guarantee you, like last night, by the time they were 20 minutes in, there were no hands going up, no questions. They were just in there doing what they had to do. Now, when you're external, you've got no one to call, okay, because I'm not there. That's the reason I've put this together, to try and make that and so that you don't miss out. But this is exactly the delivery that these students received in the internal class last night. All right, so the great thing about this is you get to learn, and you'll then, part of the training package says that you are to be exposed to industry standard estimating software, and that is what this is. This is not the only one. There's hundreds of them, but you've got to understand, once you decide to use one, get used to it. And then there's another aspect that I will actually bring in the middle of the year, where you need to be assessing the work you're doing. And let's just say that you allowed $2,500 for a segment of work, or say you were putting a subfloor down, and when you kept a record of it, you found out that it was actually closer to 2,800. That's when you need to put that in your notes, and then the next time you quote a job like that, subsequently that rate goes up. Might be that you actually made a million, you made a fortune, and you go, well, okay, I don't need to change that price. The price was acceptable to the builder, and that way you actually build accordingly. So the practice of this are really important. And so down here, there's a class agreed figures, and that's the video that I'm actually recording right now. And the reason for that is, up here there was a video I put out last week, and the Word document didn't come out on the video, which is a right real pain. So this is the second time I've recorded it. Okay, before I go, the library has a whole heap of information around Rawlinson's, and it is worth your while at some stage to actually go into here, have a look. And this is actually how they what they do with their system. And they've got a little bit of an online-y thing, but basically, if you're that type of person that has to have a book, they put out a book each year, and it goes, and it's been around forever. And so there's a little video and that you can actually have a look at, and that will actually expose you to another facet of software that will actually work out. So the great thing is, estimating can be a really exciting workplace to get involved in. High stress, absolutely. But, you know, when you have a rewarding career, most of it is all about, you know, you going for 110%, and there will be pressure in whatever you do. If you're a good estimator, you'll be found out. Now, I threw a line out last night with the students because we didn't have any ladies in the class. And I'm going to let you know that you are up against a trend at the moment that's happening out in estimators, and that is many of today's estimators are females. So then I said, is there anyone around? Oh, there's no females. Okay. They never forget anything. Males are less in that area. They miss stuff that they shouldn't miss. But generally, we have got some outstanding estimators that have gone through this course and have been picked up. And basically, that's one of the reasons. And because right at the very start of the course, where I told you about the jumbo jet and the 6 million parts, and don't forget the wings and all that stuff, the fact is, any project, you cannot afford to miss one floor of a 25-story building. You can't afford to do what Airbus did and actually put the electrics on one side in one country and put the electrics on the other side of a plane, and it took 2 years to actually change all the planes that had already wired up and rectify the problem. In actual fact, that probably was the single most common issue that actually caused Airbus to lose their march on the rest of the competition. By the time they'd fixed it, Boeing had caught up with the concept and come up with the 777 and everything else like that. And now they're actually taken away the A380. And it's an amazing plane. So this is all about business. It's all about being on time and on budget and all those types of things. And we will be actually working around that as we go through. So for those students who have evaluate tender documents, that's something that I will be sharing with you in more detail, but there's a video in those courses which you can cover. All right, that's wonderful. I'm going to go back to the course, and so that is where we are. Core logic costing software, do this stuff here. Here's your student upload when you put in the rates, and then I will actually receive that, and that'll be all tickety-boo. As is usual, if you have any questions, email me, and I will try to provide as much information as I can. And if I think you're really in treading water or something's not quite right, I'll ring you, okay, and just say, hey, you know what's going on, because at the reality of that, I am trying to keep my hands over the top of each of you to make sure that you're doing okay. All right, all for now. Thank you. Bye-bye.